Hey guys, I'm Daniel, and today we're working on a few upgrades to my 2016 Chrysler 200C with the 3.6 liter Pentastar V6 engine. So the newer models that Chrysler released has a little bit of a better lower intake. And today we're going to swap it out for newer model intake, which is supposed to be more free-flowing. People supposedly love it, they feel the power, so let's get started. So in order to get to this, we have to remove all this. All this needs to go away, and we need to get to what's underneath here. So let's get started. Alright, now that we got the upper intake manifold off, we are going to plug the holes so nothing falls into engine. At this point, your engine is exposed to the outside elements. If you spray water in it, drop a bolt in it, it's inside the engine. So it's very important that nothing goes in there. Make sure, take any precautions you have to make sure there's nothing going in there. The next step is to remove the fuel line. And what we're actually going to do is we'll just unbolt the fuel line, move it back, and that will free the lower intake manifold. So let's get started. Alright, one thing that I didn't think of is all the fuels that are still pressurized and in the lines. So the smart thing to do, which I didn't do, is to trigger the fuel cutoff, let the car run until it runs out of gas, and then you won't have all this gassy mess that I have right now. So I'm gonna have to start cleaning up before I continue to work on it. The other thing is, as I removed the fuel rail, some fuel injectors came out with the fuel rail, some stayed in there. So I need to go ahead and remove all the injectors, and we're going to start tackling finally the lower intake manifold, and we'll take a look and see what the new one brings. Let's get going. Alright, now comes the moment of truth. We're gonna lift it off, be very quiet so I can hear if something's gonna drop down there. If it does, I need to recover it. So let's get this open. Alright, so now that we got the new lower intake and the old one, I did not opt for new seals. My car only has 21,000 miles on it, so I'm going to transfer the seals from here to the new one. If you have 80, 100, 120,000 miles, I probably would get new ones as well. But we're also going to take a look in what condition they are, just in case if something is ripped, if something doesn't look quite right, I'll just go ahead and order new ones, and I'll guess the car is going to sit for a few days. But we're going to try to get the old ones transferred. Let's get to it. These are in excellent shape. They're not brittle whatsoever. This is what I would expect brand new ones to feel like. So these are crushed pretty bad, so whoever installed them did a pretty shitty job, but we're still gonna use them because instead of assembling it the way they came out, I'm gonna flip them upside down and I still get a nice clean edge. See, this is all crushed, and that's why it's a mess underneath the lower intake. So we're gonna clean them. And install them upside down right here. So I still have a nice clean edge. Push them down like they're supposed to. Okay, so I can't let it go unnoticed. I look at it visually, I put my fingers down there, and this new lower intake manifold is just so much bigger than the old ones. So what I want to do is I want to measure the difference in volume, if there is even any. Maybe it's just all in my head. People have noticed big power gains, and you know, I don't know if you can notice 5 or 10 horsepower. I think you have to get at least 10% improvement over what you started with in order to really feel it. But I just taped it off. Let's hope it holds water. Let's fill it up and see how much of a difference it is. Fill it up. Careful, give it another, well, fill it up to maybe 30. See how much goes in before it starts to overflow. What, come on? It's 110. Alright, first one was 110. Alright, you got enough for a second round? Okay, go. Okay, more? You gotta have to fill it up to 50 probably.
It was just about 40.
40? Five? 10. So this is 130 millimeter in volume, milliliters, whereas the other one is 110. Oh my gosh, what a mess we made. But on the original OEM from the 2016 3.6 Pentastar, we were able to get 110 milliliters of water into that crevice intake, whatever you want to call it. On the new one, it's 130, maybe 132, and this is as close as we can measure it, but there's a significant difference. So if you're talking about a minimum of 20 milliliter difference times 6, that's 120 milliliter. That's 0.12 liters more air volume coming into your engine just through this swap that's basically, you know, $100 roughly. So now that we're done, we transferred the bolts, the seals. Let's go ahead and reassemble everything. Let's go. So now that we got the lower intake manifold in, next thing we're going to do is we're going to torque down the screws. They're gonna go in at 71 inch-pounds, which is 8 Newton meter, and I'm gonna show you the exact sequence that this gets bolted down. Now I wanna give a shout out to Brian, who gave me all that information, so let's get to it. Alright, now that everything is put back together, let's cross our fingers and let's hope it starts. Alright guys, that was it. It wasn't too hard. Put it back together. I took the car out for a ride and I gotta admit, I feel something. Maybe it's a placebo effect. It sounds a tad bit different. It feels a little bit more responsive. Again, the power increase can't be that much and I don't have any dyno numbers to prove it. However, I will go this following week to the track and we'll see if there's any time difference, and I will post all the information on YouTube in the description as well as on my Facebook page, so you guys can have some information on what actually happened. But next time we'll go ahead and start tuning the engine and the transmission, like proper tuning, not just removing the speed limiter and increasing the RPM, like a full transmission and engine tune. So until next time, stay tuned, see you around.